The galaxy had watched humanity for 300 years. Every alien empire, every ancient civilization, every powerful species had observed the small blue planet called Earth. They had studied the humans carefully. They had measured their ships, counted their weapons, and tested their technology. And they had all come to the same conclusion. Humans were weak, but it was not a cruel judgment. It was simply what the evidence showed. Earth's military fleet had only 12 ships. 12 small vessels that patrolled their home system and nothing more. Human technology was primitive compared to the great powers of the Galactic Concord. Their weapons were outdated. Their shields were thin. Their engines were slow. The aliens saw humans as farmers, artists, traders, poets. They were a species that made beautiful music and grew excellent food. They were friendly and polite at every diplomatic meeting. They smiled too much. They apologized too often. They never raised their voices in anger. Admiral Yuna understood all of this. She had spent her entire career making sure the galaxy believed it. She stood on the observation deck of Earth's Defense Command, a secret facility buried deep beneath the mountains of Korea. The room was dark except for the glow of holographic displays showing every ship in human space. 12 vessels appeared on the public display. On her private screen, hidden behind 7 layers of encryption, the true number was very different. But today was not about numbers. Today was about patience. And patience, Yuna knew, was running out. The doors opened behind her. Ambassador Taiho walked in, his formal diplomatic robes replaced with a simple military uniform. His face was calm, but his eyes burned with cold fire. "Colony Sejong 4 is gone," he said quietly. "The Velar Empire destroyed it completely. Their war fleet crossed into our protected territory and burned everything. Cities, farms, schools, hospitals." Yuna did not turn around. How many? 1,200,000 civilians. Men, women, and children. They gave no warning. They sent no demands. They simply erased them. The silence stretched between them like a wire, pulled too tight. "The Velar commander is named Keth," Taiho continued. "He sent a message to the Galactic Council. He called it a demonstration of power. He said humanity should learn its place in the natural order. He said we should prepare to serve our new masters." Yuna finally turned. Her expression was empty, like a frozen lake in winter. What did the council say? They expressed concern. They called for calm. They suggested we negotiate with the Velar Empire to avoid further conflict. Taiho's voice carried a bitter edge. Some of them laughed. Elder Thea of the Corn Federation asked if we needed help evacuating our remaining colonies. They think we cannot fight. They think we cannot win. Yuna walked to the main display and pressed her hand against it. The screen changed, revealing a countdown timer, 72 hours. "Contact Fleet Marshal Doan," she ordered. "Tell him Protocol Sunrise is approved. Tell him the time for hiding is over." Taiho nodded slowly. "And my role? Go to the Galactic Council. Stand before every species that has watched us for 3 centuries. Let them laugh at you one more time." Yuna's lips curved into something that was not quite a smile. "Then tell them what is coming." 2 days later, Ambassador Taiho stood in the great chamber of the Galactic Concord. The room was enormous, built to hold representatives from over 200 species. Massive creatures floated in water tanks. Small beings perched on elevated platforms. Ancient races sat in shadows, their eyes glowing with centuries of wisdom. And all of them looked at the single human. Standing in the center with amusement or pity, the representative from Earth may speak, announced. The council moderator Taiho bowed politely, as he always did. He smiled gently, as he always did. Several alien diplomats whispered to each other, already bored. Honored members of the Galactic Concord, Tayo began, his voice soft but clear. 2 days ago, the Velar Empire attacked a peaceful human colony without warning or cause. They killed over 1 million innocent people. They destroyed homes, farms, and cities. They murdered children in their schools. Commander Keth sat in the Velar delegation box, his massive form draped in military decorations. He made no effort to hide his satisfaction. His species resembled armored reptiles, with thick scales and 4 powerful arms. The Velar Empire controlled 47 star systems and commanded the largest fleet in the Concord. The human speaks of natural consequences, Keth called out, not waiting for permission. Weak species should not occupy valuable territory. This is the law of nature. This is the law of the galaxy. Earth and its colonies will soon belong to the Empire. This is not cruelty. This is simply ... reality. Laughter echoed through the chamber. Several delegations nodded in agreement. Teho waited for the noise to fade. His expression remained calm. The Velar Empire has made a grave error, he said simply. They have mistaken our patience for weakness. They have confused our kindness with fear. They have looked at our small fleet and believed they understood our true power. More laughter. Commander Keth's deep voice boomed across the chamber. What power? 12 ancient ships? A species that has never fought a war beyond its own planet? You are prey, human. You have always been prey. The only question is which predator will consume you first. Taiho did not react to the insult. Instead, he reached into his robe and produced a small device. He pressed a button, and suddenly, every display in the chamber showed the same image. A simple countdown timer. 72 hours. 71 hours. 70 hours. In 3 days, Taiyo announced, the galaxy will learn what humanity truly is. You have watched us for 300 years. You have measured our ships. You have studied our weapons. You have judged us as farmers and poets and dreamers. He looked directly at Commander Keth. You were supposed to think that. We wanted you to believe it. Every smile, every polite word, every humble gesture was designed to make you underestimate us. And it worked. It worked perfectly. The laughter had stopped. Something in Taiho's voice had changed. Something cold had entered the room. In 3 days, the Velar Empire will cease to exist as a military power. In 3 days, every species in this chamber will understand why humanity hid its true face. In 3 days, you will learn the answer to a question you never thought to ask. Elder Thea leaned forward, her ancient face creased with sudden concern. What question? Taiho smiled. It was not the gentle smile they had seen for 3 centuries. It was the smile of something old and patient and very, very dangerous. Why would a species capable of ruling the galaxy choose to pretend it was weak? He turned and walked toward the exit, leaving the countdown timer burning on every screen. Behind him, for the first time in 10,000 years, the Galactic Council sat in perfect, terrified silence, deep beneath the surface of Earth, in bunkers that were older than first contact with alien life. Fleet Marshal Doan received the message he had waited 30 years to hear. The words appeared on his private screen in simple text. Protocol Sunrise authorized. Dohan was an old man now. His hair had turned white. His hands had grown slow. But his mind remained sharp as a blade, and his heart still burned with the same fire that had driven him since childhood. He had trained his entire life for this moment. His father had trained for it. His grandfather had trained for it. 4 generations of his family had carried this secret, passing it down like a sacred flame dot. Now the flame would finally be seen. He stood and walked to the center of the command room. Around him, Hundreds of officers worked at their stations, monitoring systems that the galaxy did not know existed. They were young men and women who had been selected from billions, trained in absolute secrecy, sworn to silence until death. "Attention all personnel," Dohan announced. His voice was calm, but carried the weight of history. "Protocol Sunrise is now active. Begin awakening sequence." The officers moved with practiced precision. They had rehearsed this moment thousands of times in simulation. Now it was real. Across Earth and throughout human space, hidden systems began to activate. Power plants buried beneath oceans roared to life. Factories concealed inside mountains started their engines. Shipyards hidden in the folds of space itself opened their doors for the first time in centuries. Captain Minji stood on the bridge of the Soul's Vengeance, a heavy cruiser that had been completed 15 years ago, but had never seen the light of normal space. She was 34 years old, born and raised in the hidden military world that most humans did not know existed. Her crew was young, eager, and absolutely loyal. "Captain," her navigation officer reported, "we are receiving the emergence coordinates. All ships in Battle Group 7 are reporting ready." Minji nodded. Through her view screen, she could see dozens of other vessels floating in the strange purple void of dimensional fold space. This was where humanity had built its true fleet in dimensions that alien science believed were impossible to access. They had discovered the secret 200 years ago and told no one. "Signal the fleet," Minji ordered. "We emerge in 60 seconds. All weapons hot. All shields to maximum." Around her, the crew moved with silent efficiency. They had been born for this. They had been created for this. In normal space, the Velar Empire's war fleet of 2,000 ships was celebrating its victory. They had gathered near the ruins of colony Sejong 4, preparing for the next phase of conquest. Commander Keth had already selected the next human colony for destruction. He expected no resistance. He expected only fear and surrender. The first sign that something was wrong came from his sensor officer. "Commander, we are detecting unusual energy readings. Multiple sources. They are appearing from. I do not understand. They are appearing from nowhere." Keth turned to the display screen. What he saw made his blood freeze. Ships. Human ships. Not 12. Not dozens. Not hundreds. Thousands. They emerged from invisible tiers in space, pouring out like water from a broken dam. Heavy cruisers. Battleships. Dreadnoughts the size of small moons. Each vessel was sleek and powerful, covered in weapons that the Velar Empire had never seen before. "This is impossible," Keth whispered. "This is impossible." But it was happening. All across the galaxy, at the same moment, humanity's hidden military revealed itself. Orbital battle stations materialized around Earth, 12,000 of them, forming a defensive shell that could destroy any invasion fleet. Support vessels appeared near human colonies, immediately establishing protective perimeters. Strike groups emerged at key strategic points throughout the Concord, positioning themselves to control vital hyperlanes. And above the Velar homeworld itself, a single massive structure appeared in orbit. It was not a ship. It was not a station. It was a weapon, and its name was the Huanan Array. Fleet Marshal Doan's voice broadcast across every frequency in the galaxy. Every ship, every station, every communication device received his message at the same moment. "This is Fleet Marshal Doan of the United Earth Defense Force, speaking on behalf of humanity. For 300 years, we have hidden our true military capability from the galaxy. We built in secret. We prepared in silence. We waited with patience." On the Galactic Council world, Ambassador Taiho stood at a viewing window, watching as human warships materialized in orbit. Behind him, alien diplomats screamed and scrambled and fled in panic. "We did this Because we understood something that the older species forgot long ago, Dohan continued. Power without wisdom is destruction. Strength without restraint is tyranny. We did not want to rule the galaxy. We did not want to conquer. We wanted only to live in peace. Commander Keth stared at his tactical display. His fleet of 2,000 ships was surrounded. Human vessels outnumbered him 10 to 1. His weapons were locked by jamming signals, so sophisticated that his officers could not even identify them. His communications with the homeworld were cut. He was trapped. But the Velar Empire has made a choice, Dohan's voice continued, growing colder. They have attacked our people without cause. They have murdered our children without mercy. They have forced us to reveal what we truly are. Captain Minji watched the Velar fleet on her screen. The enemy ships were trying to flee, but there was nowhere to go. Human vessels had sealed every escape route. Human weapons were aimed at every enemy bridge. We are not farmers, Dohan declared. We are not poets. We are not the simple, smiling species you believed us to be. We are humanity. We are the patient ones. We are the ones who wait. We are the ones who build in the darkness and strike in the light. On the council world, Tahi turned to face the remaining diplomats. His expression was not cruel. It was not triumphant. It was simply tired, like a parent who had been forced to discipline a child. You asked why we pretended to be weak, he said quietly. Now you know. We were never weak. We were never prey. We were never the species you thought we were. He gestured to the window, where human dreadnoughts now dominated the sky. We were the trap. And the Velar Empire walked right into it. In the command center beneath Earth, Fleet Marshal Dohan completed his broadcast with words that would echo through galactic history for 10,000 years. To the Velar Empire, you have 72 hours to surrender completely. Your military will be dismantled. Your leadership will face justice. Your people will be spared if you comply. He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of a species that had hidden its fury for 3 centuries. To the rest of the galaxy, observe what happens when humanity is pushed too far. Remember this moment. Learn from it. And pray you never give us a reason to repeat it. The transmission ended. The galaxy held its breath, and humanity's war began. The Velar Empire had spent 5,000 years building its military power. They had conquered 47 star systems. They had defeated dozens of species. They had crushed rebellions and destroyed enemies and burned worlds until their name meant fear across half the galaxy. Humanity dismantled all of it in 11 hours. Lieutenant Commander Sujin led Strike Group 7 through the darkness of space toward Korath Prime, the largest shipyard in the Velar Empire. Her squadron consisted of 12 stealth frigates, each one invisible to every sensor the aliens possessed. They had been designed in secret, built in hidden factories, and crewed by soldiers who did not officially exist. All units begin attack run, Sujin ordered calmly. Primary targets are the orbital defense platforms. Secondary targets are the shipyard control centers. We have 90 seconds before they detect our energy signatures. Her ships moved like ghosts through the asteroid field surrounding the shipyard. The Velar had positioned over 200 defense platforms to protect this vital facility. Each platform carried enough firepower to destroy a small fleet. None of them saw the human ships coming. Sujin's frigates opened fire simultaneously. Precise beams of energy struck critical systems on every platform at exactly the same moment. Power cores overloaded. Shield generators failed. Weapons systems went dark. In less than 10 seconds, the entire defense network was disabled. Phase 1 complete, Sujin reported. Moving to secondary targets. This was humanity's doctrine of war, developed over 3 centuries of secret preparation. They did not fight battles. They did not trade fire with enemies. They did not give opponents time to react or adapt or call for help. They simply erased threats before the enemy knew they were in danger. Across Velar space, identical operations were happening simultaneously. Human strike teams appeared at every major military installation, every command center, every weapons factory, every fleet staging area. They struck with absolute precision and disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. On the Velar homeworld, the planetary defense grid went offline without warning. Human infiltration programs, hidden in their computer systems for decades, activated and locked every weapon, every ship, every soldier in place. The Velar military command tried to send orders to their fleet. The messages never arrived. They tried to activate their emergency defenses. The systems did not respond. Fleet Marshal Dawn watched the tactical display aboard the command vessel Gogorieo. Red icons representing Velar military assets disappeared one by one, blinking out like dying stars. His staff worked quietly around him, coordinating thousands of operations across dozens of star systems. "Sir, the Velar invasion fleet is attempting to retreat," an officer reported. "They are breaking formation and running for the nearest hyperlane." "Block them," Jahan ordered simply. Human cruisers moved to intercept. The Velar ships found every escape route sealed by vessels that had not existed 6 hours ago. Their weapons were useless against human shields. Their shields were paper against human weapons. Their communications were jammed. Their sensors were blinded. Commander Keth stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his empire fall apart around him. His officers screamed at unresponsive systems. His warriors pounded their fists against sealed doors. His fleet burned in the void of space. How? He demanded of no one. How is this possible? They had 12 ships. 12 ancient, pathetic vessels. We counted them. We studied them. We knew everything about their military. You knew what we wanted you to know. Keth spun around. A human stood on his bridge, somehow present, despite the fact that all entrances were sealed. He was young, dressed in black combat armor, his face calm and empty. Captain Hyunwoo of the Special Marine Forces had entered through a hull breach so small that the Velar sensors had not detected it. His team had infiltrated the flagship 15 minutes ago, neutralizing every security system along the way. "Your sensors are lying to you," Hyunwoo explained. "Your weapons are locked. Your engines are disabled. You have no communications, no shields, and no hope of escape. Your fleet is surrounded by 400 human warships. Your homeworld is under the shadow of a weapon that can crack your planet in half." Keth drew his ceremonial blade, a massive curved sword that had killed dozens of enemies in personal combat. "I am commander of the Velar Empire. I will not surrender to prey." Hyunwoo did not move. He did not reach for his weapon. He simply looked at the massive alien with something that might have been pity. "The Velar Empire killed 1.2 million of our people," he said quietly. "Men, women, children, families. You burned them alive in their homes. You destroyed their schools while students were still inside. You called it a demonstration of power." He stepped closer, and Keth suddenly realized that the human was not afraid. Not even slightly. "This is our demonstration of power. We could destroy your homeworld. We could exterminate your species. We have the sea. Ability. We have the justification. Your own actions have given us every right." Keth's grip on his sword tightened. "Then why don't you?" "Because we are not you," Hyunwoo replied. "We do not murder civilians. We do not destroy worlds for demonstration. We do not prove our strength by killing the helpless." Behind Keth, his bridge officers were being restrained by human marines who had appeared from nowhere. The entire ship was now under human control. "Your military is finished," Yenwu continued. Your government will be reformed. Your leaders will face justice for their crimes. But your people, your civilians, your children will not be harmed. This is the difference between us. This is why you lost. He activated his communication device. Fleet Marshal Doan, the Velar flagship is secured. Commander Kef is in custody. Dohan's voice responded immediately. Excellent work, Captain. Proceed with standard processing. And Yenwu? Make sure the galaxy sees this. Make sure they understand what we chose not to do. Understood, sir. Across 47 star systems, the Velar military collapsed. Ships surrendered by the hundreds. Commanders threw down their weapons. Soldiers stood in shock as human forces appeared everywhere at once, overwhelming without slaughter, conquering without cruelty. The war was over before most of the galaxy knew it had begun. On the observation deck of the Goguryeo, Fleet Marshal Dohun allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. The tactical display showed a galaxy in chaos. Alien species scrambling to understand what had just happened, governments demanding explanations, military commanders reviewing everything they thought they knew about humanity. Sir? An aide approached cautiously. The Galactic Council has requested an immediate meeting. They want to discuss ... terms. Doan nodded slowly. Tell Ambassador Taiho to prepare. Tell Admiral Yuna to position our fleets for maximum visibility. And tell the Council that humanity will speak when we are ready. He turned back to the display where the last Velar resistance was surrendering. We have waited 300 years. They can wait a few more hours. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so full. Every species, every nation, every empire in the known galaxy had sent representatives. They filled every seat, every platform, every floating pod. They crowded the observation galleries. They pressed against the walls. They hung from the ceiling in species that could fly, and all of them were afraid. Word had spread across the galaxy in hours. The Velar Empire, the mightiest military power in the Concord, had been destroyed in less than a day. Not defeated, not weakened, destroyed. Their entire war machine had been erased like words on a chalkboard. Their commanders were prisoners. Their ships were debris. Their weapons were silent forever. And the species that had done this was walking into the chamber. Right now, Admiral Yuna entered first, her uniform crisp and perfect, medals gleaming on her chest. She walked with the confidence of someone who knew exactly how much power stood behind her. Following her came Ambassador Taiho, Captain Minji, Captain Hyunwoo, and a dozen other human officers and diplomats. They took their positions in the center of the chamber, surrounded by hundreds of alien species who watched them with a mixture of terror and fascination. Elder Thea of the Corinth Federation was the first to speak. Her species was ancient, older than most star systems, wise beyond measure. But even her voice trembled slightly. The Council recognizes the delegation from Earth. We have many questions. Yuna stepped forward. Her expression was calm, almost gentle, but her eyes were steel. We will answer your questions. But first, you will listen. The chamber fell silent. Not a single being dared to interrupt. For 300 years, humanity has been a member of the Galactic Concord. For 300 years, we have attended your meetings, followed your rules, and participated in your economy. For 300 years, we have smiled and nodded and accepted your judgment that we were a minor species unworthy of respect. She paused, letting the words settle. That was a lie. All of it. Every smile was calculated. Every humble word was strategic. Every sign of weakness was designed to make you underestimate us. A ripple of unease passed through the assembly. Species whispered to each other in dozens of languages. We built our true military in secret dimensions that your science says do not exist. We developed weapons that your engineers cannot understand. We created ships that your sensors cannot detect. We established networks of operatives in every government, every military, every intelligence service in the Concord. Ambassador Taiho stepped forward, activating a holographic display. Images appeared showing hidden installations throughout the galaxy, in asteroid fields and dead systems in the spaces between stars. These are our defense positions, Taiye explained. We have installations in every sector. We have weapons pointed at every capital. We have contingency plans for every possible threat from every species in this chamber. The silence was absolute. Fear had become terror. You built weapons against us? A delegate from the Morthax Union demanded. You prepared for war against the entire galaxy? Yes, Yuna answered simply. Because we knew that eventually, one of you would try to destroy us. The only question was which species would strike first. She looked at the empty section where the Velar delegation had once sat. Now we know. Elder Thea leaned forward, her ancient face creased with concern. You deceived us for 3 centuries. You infiltrated our governments. You built weapons of unimaginable power in secret. Why should we trust anything you say now? Admiral Yuna's expression softened, just slightly. Because if we wanted to conquer you, you would already be conquered. If we wanted to destroy you, you would already be destroyed. We have the power to dominate this galaxy completely. We have had that power for over 200 years. She spread her arms, gesturing to the assembled species. Look around you. Every world you control, every fleet you command, every weapon you possess is within our reach. We could have taken everything. We chose not to. Captain Hyunwoo stepped forward. He had removed his combat armor and now wore a simple uniform. The Velar Empire killed over 1 million of our civilians. By your own laws of war, we had the right to respond with equal force. We could have burned their homeworld. We could have killed millions of their people in return. He shook his head slowly. Their homeworld is untouched. Their civilians are unharmed. Their children are safe in their homes. We destroyed only their military. We captured only their leaders. We killed only those who resisted with weapons in their hands. Captain Minji spoke next, her voice quiet but clear. This is who we are. This is what humanity truly is. We are not the monsters that some of you feared. We are not the conquerors that some of you expected. We are simply a species that learned, long ago, that power without mercy is evil. Ambassador Taiho addressed the assembly again. We do not want empire. We do not want tribute. We do not want slaves or subjects or worshippers. We want what we have always wanted: peace, trade, friendship, the chance to live and grow alongside other species without fear. He looked around the chamber, meeting eyes with representatives from dozens of worlds. But we will no longer pretend to be weak. We will no longer smile while others plot our destruction. We will no longer accept insults and threats and dismissal from species who thought they could conquer us without consequence. Admiral Yuna's voice hardened. Let me be absolutely clear. The next species that attacks human civilians will face the same fate as the Velar Empire. The next fleet that enters our territory with hostile intent will be destroyed. The next government that conspires against Earth will be corrected. She smiled, and it was not a friendly smile. You have seen what we can do in 11 hours. Imagine what we could do if we were truly angry. Elder Thea raised a trembling hand. What do you want from us? Taiho answered. We want to rebuild the Concord as a true partnership. No more strong species bullying weak ones. No more empires conquering their neighbors. No more wars of aggression. We will help enforce peace, not as rulers, but as guardians. And if we refuse? A Morthax delegate asked. Yuna shrugged. You cannot refuse. You no longer have that power. But you can choose to work with us, or you can choose to fear us. Partnership or terror. Cooperation or isolation. The choice is yours. She turned and walked toward the exit, followed by the human delegation. We will give you 1 week to decide, she called back over her shoulder. Choose wisely. And remember what happened to the last species that made the wrong choice. The doors closed behind them, in the chamber. 200 species sat in stunned silence, contemplating a galaxy that had changed forever in a single day. And every single one of them knew, with absolute certainty, that they would choose partnership. The alternative was unthinkable. 1 year had passed since the day humanity revealed its true face to the galaxy. 1 year since the Velar Empire fell. 1 year since everything changed. Captain Hyun-woo stood on the bridge of the Unity, the first joint human-alien peacekeeping vessel in galactic history. Through his view screen, he could see the reconstruction efforts on Velar Prime. New buildings rose from the ashes of the old military command centers. Schools opened their doors to students who were learning a different kind of history. Hospitals treated the wounded from a war that had ended almost before it began. The Velar people had not been destroyed. They had been freed. Captain, we are receiving a communication from Korath Station. His communications officer was a young Velar named Thel, one of the first aliens to volunteer for the new peacekeeping force. Put it through, Hyun-woo ordered. A familiar face appeared on screen. Commander Vorn of the Corinth Federation had once been a member of his government's secret committee on containing humanity. He had helped plan operations to limit human expansion, to control human technology, to ensure that Earth never became a threat. Now he served as Hyun-woo's second in command, and he called the human captain brother. Hyun-woo, the supply convoy has arrived safely. All medical supplies have been delivered to the southern continent. The population there sends their thanks. Good work, Vorn. Return to the Unity when you are finished. We have patrol duties in the outer sectors tomorrow. Vorn smiled, an expression that his species rarely showed to outsiders. I will be there. Unity out. The screen went dark. Hyun-woo turned to look at his bridge crew. Humans worked alongside Velar, Corinth, Morthax, and a dozen other species. They wore the same uniform. They followed the same orders. They protected the same peace. 1 year ago, this would have been impossible. Now it was simply normal. On Earth, Fleet Marshal Doan had retired from active service. He spent his days teaching at the academy, training the next generation of officers who would maintain the peace that his generation had fought to establish. His final lecture had become famous throughout the galaxy, translated into hundreds of languages and studied by military academies on every world. We spent 3 centuries pretending to be less than we were, he told his students. Not because we were cowards, but because we understood something that the older species had forgotten. Power means nothing without wisdom. Strength means nothing without restraint. He stood at the window of his classroom, looking out at a sky that now held the ships of 100 worlds. The galaxy saw our fleet and trembled. They counted our weapons and felt fear. But they missed the most important truth. The most terrifying thing about humanity is not our ships or our guns or our hidden technology. He turned to face his students, young men and women who had never known a hiding humanity. The most terrifying thing about us is that we built all of that while holding ourselves back. We created the greatest military in galactic history while pretending to be farmers and poets. Imagine what we could build if we put the same effort into something other than war. He smiled, and it was the smile of a grandfather, not a warrior. That is our next challenge. That is the question your generation must answer. Now that we no longer need to hide, now that we no longer need to prepare for destruction, what will we create instead? Admiral Yuna had become the first human appointed to the Galactic Security Council. She spent her days in meetings with alien leaders, building the framework for lasting peace. It was boring work compared to commanding fleets and planning wars. She loved every moment of it. Ambassador Tayo returned to diplomacy, but his role had changed. He no longer needed to smile and nod and pretend to accept insults. He spoke as an equal, representing a species that everyone now respected. Some still feared humanity, of course. Fear does not disappear overnight. But the fear was slowly transforming into something else. Admiration, partnership, trust. Captain Minji took command of the Soul's Vengeance on permanent assignment to the Deep Exploration Fleet. Humanity's next great project was not conquest or defense, but discovery. There were stars beyond the edges of known space. There were worlds that no species had ever visited. There were mysteries waiting to be solved. Lieutenant Commander Su Jing served as her executive officer. The two women who had once been instruments of humanity's hidden power now became pioneers of its open future. Their ships carried scientists and diplomats alongside soldiers. Their missions brought knowledge instead of destruction. In the outer reaches of the galaxy, young Ensign Gino stood at the observation window of his patrol vessel, watching the stars drift past. He was 22 years old, born 5 years after first contact, raised in a world where humanity had always been hiding. He remembered the day the secret was revealed. He had been 17, a student at the academy, when Fleet Marshal Dohan's broadcast echoed through every speaker on Earth. He remembered the shock. He remembered the pride. He remembered the fear of what might come next. But mostly, he remembered his grandmother's words. She was 93 years old. A woman who had lived through the discovery of alien life, the first diplomatic missions, the long years of pretending. She had worked in the hidden factories, building ships that she never expected to see used. She had kept secrets that had defined her entire existence. On the day humanity revealed itself, she had held Jinho's hand and spoken words that he would never forget. "We were never hiding because we were weak," she said, her old eyes bright with tears. "We were hiding because we understood what our strength could do. Power without restraint is just violence. Power with patience? That is civilization." She looked out the window at the sky, where human warships were materializing from dimensions that had been secret since before Jinho was born. The galaxy will learn our first lesson today. They will learn that humanity is not prey. They will learn that we are not farmers or poets or dreamers. They will learn to fear us. She squeezed his hand tightly. "I pray they never learn our second lesson. I pray they never discover what happens when humanity stops being patient. I pray that this day is the beginning of peace, not the first step toward something darker." 1 year later, Ensign Gino understood what she meant. The galaxy had learned humanity's first lesson. They had seen the power, felt the fear, understood the capability. Every species now knew that humanity could destroy them all if it chose to, but they had also seen something else. They had seen mercy. They had seen restraint. They had seen a species that chose justice over vengeance, partnership over dominance, peace over conquest. And slowly, gradually, the fear was becoming something better. Jinho smiled as he watched the stars. His grandmother was still alive, still watching the news, still hoping that humanity would choose the right path. He intended to make sure they did. The galaxy had learned that humanity was powerful. Now it was time to teach them that humanity was good. That was the lesson that mattered. That was the lesson that would last.